All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to another Explainer, where we take on incredibly complex and, let's be honest, pretty dark philosophical texts and break them down so we can really understand the architecture of their ideas. Today, we're exploring a deeply chilling mythos known as the Eternal Theater of the Crimson Star. And for this Explainer, I'm actually going to take on the mantle of the Shadow Reaper, acting as your narrator. So I welcome you to our dark stage to explore the endless uncreation of human meaning. It's a fascinating, albeit bleak, cosmic tragedy, and we're going to unpack every single layer of it together.
So, tonight's playbill maps out a tragic cycle in 5 distinct acts. We've got the stage of perished stars, the anti-Faustian bargain, the sovereigns of active destruction, the imp's mocking mirror, and finally, the trap of the eternal return. Let's get right to it.
Act 1. The stage of perished stars, the arrival of meaning. Our performance kicks off right upon the obsidian floor of what's called the Pulpit of the Perished Stars, which sits nestled in the cold shadow of the indifferent Crimson Star. This is where our protagonist, the Seeker of the Valley, arrives, completely bloated with pride, and they carry something called the Roast Beast. Now, what is that? The Roast Beast represents our pathetic human delusions. You know, the stories, the legacies, those grand meanings we build specifically to mask the underlying nothingness of the abyss. It is, quite literally, a feast of self-importance.
Now, the cruelty of this mythos lies heavily in its theatrical setting. Think about it. The very nature of a theater implies a performance, right? It's a display meant to be witnessed, meant to be validated. This specific setting ensures that the seeker struts their existential purpose and their roast beast around on stage completely unaware they are performing for a totally empty house. This theatrical environment just massively amplifies their hubris, making their desperate need for meaning all the more tragic, because that audience they're looking for, it's simply never going to arrive.
Moving on to Act 2, the anti-Faustian bargain, stripping the feast.
To really grasp what's happening in this theater, we have to look at how its rules violently diverge from the comforting, classic myths we're used to. Like, in a traditional Faustian wager, a mortal willingly trades their soul for something they gain: knowledge, power, worldly rewards. There's a sense of agency there. But our eternal theater demands an anti-Faustian bargain. This is the involuntary, forced, uncreation of meaning without a single promise in return. There is absolutely no trade happening here. It is just a violent stripping away.
You can really see this when you look at how the antagonists differ. While Mephistopheles actively tempts, negotiates, and tricks his victims into making a deal, the Red Spectre, who is the architect of the Great Fast here, simply watches from the wings. The Spectre doesn't need to negotiate at all. With complete, icy indifference, it forces the seeker to swallow the taste of nothingness, effortlessly revealing that all their grand monuments are built upon utterly hollow ground.
Act 3. Sovereigns of Active Destruction, Uncreating the Sanctuary.
So, with the hollow ground now exposed by the Spectre, the stage is set for the active dismantling phase. Let's define the roles of the cosmic entities actually carrying out this work. First, you have the Shadow Reaper, which is the role I'm playing for you right now, acting as the cynical guide to the abyss. But the actual physical violence of uncreation, that belongs to the Grim Nash. This sovereign of active destruction walks closely behind the Seeker to systematically uncreate their sanctuaries.
The text actually describes the Grim Nash beautifully, but brutally. It says the Grim Nash brings a heavy, honest sound to the theater, aggressively testing the very foundation of the Seeker's existence by shattering their delusions. It's not some quiet, peaceful fading away into the night. It's an active, resonant demolition of absolutely everything the Seeker believed was real.
Which brings us to Act 4, the imp's mocking mirror, laughter from the lunar heights.
Every good tragedy needs a cruel observer, right? Well, high above the stage, perched way up in the lunar heights, sits the true critic of our cosmic play, the imp. Now, its defining characteristic is that it flat out refuses to participate in the destruction. The imp does not labor. It simply observes from its high vantage point, completely detached from the desperate, heavy struggle happening below.
All it does is laugh, and the text specifically tells us it laughs with the harsh, piercing sound of breaking glass, endlessly mocking everyone on the stage below.
From this high vantage point, the imp acts as the perfect cosmic mirror. By doing absolutely nothing but laughing, it ruthlessly exposes the seeker's false pride. But even more devastatingly, it reduces the great cosmic architects of destruction themselves, the Red Spectre and the Grim Nash,
into mere pathetic ushers. To the imp, even the act of destroying meaning is completely pointless. They're all just clearing a stage for an audience that isn't coming. It perfectly highlights the ultimate futility of the entire performance.
Act 5. The Trap of the Eternal Return. The Nightmare Cycle.
So, as the final act concludes and the seeker achieves total negation, a truly dreadful realization takes hold. You might be wondering, what actually awaits them when they finally stand in that absolute silence? The roast beast entirely gone, their sanctuary shattered? Is it peace? Is it finality?
Let's actually map this cycle out, because what they discover is the horrifying trap of the eternal return. The play doesn't end. We start at step 1, the Great Noon, where the seeker arrives full of pride with their roast beast. Step 2, their meaning is systematically stripped away by the great fast of the Red Spectre and the heavy hammer of the Grim Nash. Step 3, they reach that agonizing silence of total negation. And then, step 4, the stage is violently reset. It is a literal nightmare cycle, mapping directly from their prideful arrival right back to the beginning to start all over again.
To mark this endless loop, the imp descends just slightly from its heights to carve a glowing silver lunar rune directly into the obsidian floorboards of the stage.
These lunar runes are the ultimate mark of permanent suffering. They aren't just dark decorations, they're a tally. Each rune is a permanent silver scar on the stage, serving as a brutal, glowing reminder that this cycle of hollowing out the soul is a nightmare that simply refuses to stay dead. Every single time the seeker returns with new meaning, those runes are there, silently mocking the inevitable destruction that is guaranteed to follow. And through it all, hanging ominously above the pulpit of the perished stars, the crimson star itself remains cold and utterly indifferent. It just waits patiently for the entire cycle to begin again. It essentially provides the dramatic lighting for a play that goes nowhere forever.
This mythos is intense, but it fundamentally forces us to look at the stories we tell ourselves. So as the curtain falls, and inevitably rises again on this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought. Is your own roast beast merely hiding the abyss? Are the monuments you're building based on hollow ground? Or, maybe worse, like the Spectre and the Nash, are you just another usher, clearing a stage for an audience that will never arrive? Definitely something to think about as you go about building your meaning today.